I like to keep you guys updated on Chris Chan, even in moments like this where there's really nothing going on at all. And to be fair, nothing's been going on for about the past 2 years, and it's really crazy to think that we're coming up on that 2-year anniversary of when Chris was first arrested for diddling his mom. Gone are the days of being able to look at Chris's Twitter account to see what type of nonsense he was spewing that day. And even further gone are the days where you could expect to go on YouTube and see a captain's log from Chris, or see what type of trolling escapade was happening next. But nowadays, if you're someone who still follows the Chris Chan story, what we're left with is a couple letters here and there, a couple updates here and there, mostly hearing about continuances for his court hearing, and now we know that Chris is in a group home, so every now and again we get the odd picture of Chris out and about doing something in town. There's really nothing going on if you're following the Chris Chan story, and I could honestly end the video right there if I wanted to, because that's kind of the update, that we got one picture of Chris out at Walmart, and really, is that even content? Does anyone really care about seeing Chris out at Walmart? But if you do care, well, here's a picture of Chris out there at Walmart. So there's not really a lot going on here, as you can see. It's just Chris. He's got his tote bag on. He's out and about on like his monthly trips where he's able to leave the group home and get whatever he needs to get. And Chris's hair is looking more blue than ever. In last month's update video, I had said that I thought Chris was wearing a hat because he maybe messed up dyeing his hair. It was possibly falling out and it probably looked horrible. But now after seeing this, it's more blue than I could have ever imagined it. And when you match it with the blue shirt, Chris is really trying to look more like Sonic than he ever has before. I've always thought that Chris used Sonichu as a proxy for what he really wanted to make his comic about. Because while Sonichu is there, we've always known that Sonichu plays second fiddle to Chris's character. When Chris transforms, he turns into Chris Chan Sonichu. That all blue, Sonic. It looks exactly like Sonic, right? But with with rosy red cheeks. Well, that's because Chris just wants to be Sonic. And if you can't be Sonic due to those pesky copyright laws, well, just make your own version of him, and that's what you see on screen here. And now going back to the Walmart picture, I don't know, that's at least what I get from seeing Chris with the bright blue hair. Another thing that he could be trying to go for is the goddess CPU look. It's probably more likely that it might be this, but it's very clear that ever since getting out of jail, Chris is trying to cozy right back into his delusions, and it's not like he ever really left them while in jail, but now he's able to do more of the off-the-wall stuff that we all know him to do, just like, dyeing his hair bright blue. Another thing I've noticed in this Walmart picture is he is eyeing down that Sonic G Fuel. You know without a shadow of a doubt that he grabbed as much of that as he could carry. And it's probably the only beverage that he's been enjoying since he got his hands on those cans. Just look at him. He is mesmerized by those cans. You know Chris. You know how much he likes Sonic. We just got done talking about it. But anything that's Sonic related, if he sees it, he's got to have it. I'm going to go off on a tangent for a second here, and I do that a lot on this channel, but you might be noticing I'm calling Chris he a lot, and a lot of times people in the comments really don't like that. And I thought I'd just take a second here to explain myself in this, because to me this is really, if you follow Chris, this is a non-issue, because while Chris was in jail, he was referring to himself as Jesus Christ himself. Now, far be it from me not to respect Chris's wishes, so I'm going to call the Lord what the Lord wants to be called. But back to the Walmart picture, it's really all it is. It's just Chris here in Walmart doing some grocery shopping, and it's what you can expect to see now anytime a Chris update comes out. Now, maybe not next month, because stuff is actually going down next month, which I'll talk about in a minute, but this is really where Chris Chan's whole story has gone. There's no more real fun stuff going on. You kind of got to try to make the fun yourself, which is what I'm doing here today. And it's a shame. It's a shame that it's gone to this level, but you know what? This is what Chris gets for doing what he did to Barren, and there's really no other way to look at it than that. What I was going to talking about how this next month could be big, is a lot of people tend to forget about this, and I'm guilty of it too. Because remember last year, it was a year anniversary till when Chris did what he did to his mom, and he was going for another one of his many court hearings, and we were all convinced that this was going to be the one where we found out what happened with Chris. And we sort of did, because we found out that he wouldn't have another hearing until a year afterwards. That's August of 2023. And I was like, oh my God, that's going to be forever. And now it's only a few weeks away. Isn't the passage of time scary? But here we are. And I want to ask you in the comments to let me know, what do you think's going to happen at the next hearing? Chris is already out of jail and inside of a group home. So maybe now different things could happen because we're in a different position than we were last year. But knowing that Barb's still at the house, will they send Chris home? Who knows? I'm genuinely curious as to what you guys think is going to happen. And I expect most of you to say continuance, because it will be what I think as well. But who knows? Things could be different now that Chris is out of jail. And we'll have to see what happens. It's definitely going to be very interesting. And you guys already know that I'll have you covered here with anything that happens around then. We got a lot of court stuff going on revolving the locales we cover on this channel. Cyrax has court a few weeks prior. I know Ice Poseidon and all the people over in Thailand got court like sometime in August, maybe even next year. Who knows? But court stuff is all the rage in the locale community nowadays. So we're going to have to see what happens next month. But don't think this is the end of the video yet, because even though Chris is rarely doing anything, his name is out there a lot. And a place where his name always seems to turn up is on Twitter, because Chris tends to trend a lot with people showing differing opinions on what they think of the matter. And it's always, it's always people who are very uneducated on the entire situation. And you can't really blame them, because not a lot of people have the time to sit down, watch Gino's documentary and all that. But speaking of Gino's documentary, that's one of the things people were complaining about here on Twitter this week. Because I saw some person write this: I cannot fucking comprehend being this obsessed with someone else's life. And then they post a picture of Gino's Chris Chan documentary. And this tweet had about over 20,000 likes, with I think just a bunch of people who see this and go, wow, that's some obsessive documenting. These people need to get a life. And, when from the outside looking in, you see a 78-part documentary about an autistic man. Maybe I can see where they're coming from, Maybe I can understand that. But the person then goes on to say, idiots in the replies and quote retweets are just assuming I'm defending her actions. No, I just think that people's obsessions with documenting every single thing in her life is weird as fuck and creepy. Do something better with your life than stalking someone religiously. This is completely the idea of someone who's never even watched Gino's documentary. Anyone in this community, anyone who's ever watched that video, knows how much of an awesome job Gino does on it every month when he releases a new episode. And if you want to call it stalking, then fine. But then you gotta go and call every single other documentary, every other documentarian that's ever existed a stalker as well. I've seen this sentiment agreed upon by tons of people on Twitter and different websites, but honestly, it just comes off to me as people who they look for any single thing to be mad about. They want to be one of these people who point their fingers and say, hey, everyone look at me, I'm pointing out something that's really bad. Let's all look at this and criticize it. And of course, 20,000 people blindly agree to it. And the thing I find funniest about the people who post this stuff, and it seems to always be the same case, is when you click on their account, you can find some degenerate, quote-unquote, weird as fuck and creepy stuff of their own. You wanna throw stones in glass houses while posting furry stuff? It ain't gonna work out for you real well. I guess the reason I wanted to bring that up is there's a lot of misconceptions about Chris and tons of the people who cover Chris, such as people like Gino. And I think it's just coming from people who they see the stuff going on, they don't even watch the content, and they just make up their mind. But hey, that's basically just Twitter at the end of the day. And that's really the end of any type of minor updates we had about Chris this month. The final thing I wanted to look at in this video is we're coming up on, as I've mentioned a lot, the anniversary of Chris doing this. And it's weird to say the anniversary as if it's some thing we look forward to every year. No, this was a horrible fucking event. But every time this time of the year rolls around, I go back and look at some of the stuff from that time period, and it makes me remember about people like Isabella Jank, and chills run down my spine thinking about the grotesque nature of that woman. But something I saw on the Quickie, and I'll post the link down in the description below to the Quickie if you want to go there, always the best place for any type of Chris Chan knowledge you want to find out about. but they posted a screen cap of a conversation that Chris and Bella had had 2 years ago when all this stuff was going on. And man, it's just to know that this was going on the whole time and Bella wasn't doing anything to stop it. It is a terrible thing to think about. And we all know about Bella. The girl was eating hamsters. You can't expect anything morally right from this girl. But I just wanted to go back and read these texts, and there's really nothing groundbreaking there. But it's always fascinating to me to look in Chris's mindset in the weeks leading up to his arrest when he was still doing all this stuff to Barb, and how he would talk about it with people when he thought he was just going to get away with it and it was going to be an alright thing. There's still signs in here that Chris is trying to hide the full extent of what was going on, but if you read between the lines, you know what he's saying. And yeah, let's start reading these. The beginning of these is just normal Chris mumbo jumbo from around this time. He was saying things like, "I am feeling much better today. My core really took the hit a couple of days ago, and it became weighted down yesterday, and dark forces attempted to take advantage of my fragile situation, but I overpowered them and better healed myself." See, in the beginning, when he's talking about his core and all that, you think, good for you, Chris, you're at the gym working out, and then you read more, and it's like, it's just more of this dimensional merge, dumb shit. Like, you can never take him seriously. Even now, he still probably talks like this. He's just so far into his delusions even back then, and even years before that. He then says, "I will have my core fully recovered by the end of the day or tomorrow." Goes back to the gym stuff there, maybe just take a little break, Chris, and then get back to your workout. But no, it's all about the dark forces and this and that. Just common Chris stuff that he always says that no one understands but himself. Moving on. Anyway, I sense and feel this is a good time to confide with you a bit more info about my lady friend and I. Again, strictly confidential, this detail remains between you and I. You can see that Chris knew that he didn't want this to get out, but he really trusted Bella so much, and he would really trust any woman because it's always been documented that Chris trusts women with basically everything just because they're a woman. So Bella already had that advantage going for her. As I have stated, the relationship with my lady was a long time coming. Really, I often would see her and talk a bit with her, but there was that deeper vibration that had me feeling attracted to her, as she does have a genuine overpowered set of abilities within her as well. My choice was not in, and then it gets cut off right there. There's more to that message, but we can't see anymore. But it's clear that Chris is talking about, he's trying to keep it under wraps. He's just talking about this mystery lady. He talks about how he's talked with her before and all this. Like obviously, you've lived in the same house your entire life. She's your mother. But he's leaving little clues. And he says at the end that her insight and wisdom is what he's appreciative of. It's really weird, like I said, when you go back and you know that it's Barb, because knowing how she's just a shell of her former self, there's no wisdom or anything there. It was just Chris looking to get off, which is a disgusting thought to have. He then says, "Now I will also tell you, she is over 70 years old, but her soul and outer and inner strength remains very strong and vibrant." He's just lying there. He's not about the fact that she's over 70. That's facts. But there was, like we previously mentioned, shell of her former self. This was Chris taking advantage of an incredibly vulnerable woman, and it seems that he knew this to be the case, which is why he's still being very quiet on certain details about it. Chris then says, "And she has her own insight and wisdom that I am appreciative of, as she is of my goddess wisdoms and insight as well." There's some other writing down there, but it's all cut off, so I'm not even going to bother getting into it. But the reason I wanted to look into this, because it seems like this is Chris's first admission to Bella of what was going on with him and Barb. Now, I know Bella had said that she known about this since back in June, or maybe that this was just going on back in June. I might be confused on that one. But the reason I'm bringing this up is, as the weeks go on and we get closer to this, I want to look more back into the Bella content and really see just how messed up this was, because I think the initial shock of all this when it happened, it kept me only keeping up to date with what was currently going to be going on with Chris and Bella, not looking at the things that had happened prior, because we had already known what had happened at the end of the story. So we're going to be looking back into some of this, and I hope you guys can see just how messed up it was, and the way Chris he tried to make it sound like some great grand thing, like a nice relationship was blossoming. and we all know what he was doing, and he's reaping what he sowed now. So, you know, if only the same thing could be going on with Isabella Jack, because she let that happen just the same. And that's really where we leave off here today, y'all. I'm going to have a bunch more good videos coming out on these situations. We'll be talking about Chris as the court date gets closer. And yeah, I'm just glad you guys stopped by here and enjoyed the video today, my friends. Usually this is where I do the shout-outs, but in a video of this length, I know it's crazy to think a 15-minute video is short, but on this channel it is. The shout-outs would take up about 1/4 of the video, so I forego them in situations like this, but I hope all you guys know that you're all goats, and thank you for making it to the end of this video. I hope you guys have a great rest of your week and a great rest of your summer. Before I get out of here, I just have 2 things I want to plug. Me and my girl, Miss Smokey, just did a video over on her channel talking about Amberlyn Reed and different stuff. She's been doing a lot of great videos over on the whole girl world aspect of YouTube, so if you like content like that, go check her out. I'll leave the link in the description below. And secondly, I do a show every Wednesday at 6:30 p.m. Eastern Time with Kiwi Tapes over on Kiwi Tapes' channel called the Too High for Stupid podcast. And if you like hearing about locales like Chris and a lot of the other sort, we got plenty there for y'all. So with all that being said, I'm gonna get out of here, guys, and I hope to see y'all in the next one. Until then, stay safe, take care, and yeah, I'll see you then.